Alright, we're going to get back in the saddle with this e-bike drawing. We left off, we just completed this complex curved loft. And we're going to do a little bit of review, but not as complicated as that previous one. We're going to be focused on the bottom part of the triangle. So first thing you want to do is turn that layer on. You're going to be looking for triangle bottom, which is a light blue color. Just click on the light bulb there to turn it on. And we're going to still be drawing on the 3D rear triangle, so that layer should be active. That should be the current layer, and so anything we draw should be the same color as the other solids that we've been working with. So what we want to do here is create a circle for the end here, a circle on the other end, and then we're going to need to draw a path that curves out and around the tire, or the wheel, in space and meets up with this one over here. So first thing I'm going to do is reference, I'm going to use a line to reference the center point. So we're going to create a line, and first of all let's go ahead and make sure we're all on the same page here. I'm going to view from the top, and we're just going to be in the world UCS, just so everyone's on the same page. And I'm going to draw a line starting at this point here out to perpendicular. That gives me the distance, a right angle distance from this line to this line. If I would have just clicked on this point, you can see that this line extends a little bit farther because this edge of the bracket is farther away from this line than it is from this line. So if I would have drawn a line from here to here, it wouldn't have been the true distance between these two lines. It would have been a little bit longer than that. So now I have a true midpoint between these two lines I'm going to use as a reference. I'm going to draw a line. Actually, I think I need to use, let's use the 3D polyline because this is actually a pretty neat tool. So most polylines will only allow you to draw on the plane of the drawing surface. So it's like a two-dimensional drawing. This allows you to draw up, so off of the virtual paper, so you can draw lines up. So we're going to use this, and we're going to specify a starting point, the midpoint of the line that we just drew. We'll draw it up off the page in the Z direction. So you'll want to have the ortho. Actually, the polar tracking will give you the green dotted line. And that gives you the reference that you want. So you want to be in the Z direction. So we're using the polar tracking, which is that green dotted line. You want to make sure that it's in the Z direction. And you can just type in the value 70, which is the same height as our other creation over here. And then we're going to now draw another line. Let's see if we can find a midpoint here. If not, we'll have to draw that next. Okay, so I can't even see, so we may have to hide this bracket. So I'm going to escape out of drawing, and we're going to hide whatever this is that we can't see through. So we have the 3D rear triangle that we're drawing on. There should be another layer called 3D frame. I'm going to turn that off. And let's go ahead and turn on center lines and the frame. Let's see if there's anything else that might help us. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I think we used some of the two-dimensional drawings to make our other stuff, so it disappeared. let's go ahead and turn everything on. Alright, now I'm gonna turn off the 3D frame so I can see what's left of my two-dimensional drawing here. So yeah, there's really nothing there to help us. So basically all we want to do now is isolate. So we're going to use this isolate button, and we're going to keep this line. You don't have to select both of them, just one of them will do. And we still want to see, let's see this. These are both on the same layer, so that should do. And I'm going to keep this on too. So basically just back where we were. So there's nothing additional over here that we can use. I'm going to create my own line. Specify my first point as the end point of this line. I'm going to go, if there's not a perpendicular, then it may be that the other line is longer. So let's try the other side. There we go. There's a perpendicular. So this line is a little bit longer than this line on this end. So now I have a center point over here that I can use. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm still going to use the 3D polyline tool, which allows me to basically draw a line in any direction that I want to. And I have some snap points that are going to help me. So I want to point here, and I'm going to have a point here at the midpoint, and then I'm going to go back to my original starting point for this line, which is the midpoint over here. Or if I can find that end point, that would work too. Let me orbit just so you can see what's going on here. So what I've done is created a triangle, which is a visual representation of a drawing plane. So the next thing that I want to do is align my UCS to this triangle. This should seem familiar because we did this exact thing for this shape over here. So we're going to use the UCS tool, but instead of snapping to an object, we're going to use a 3-click method. So the first click is specifying the kind of the center. We want to use this point here, the center, and then we want to specify the X and Y. So it doesn't really matter which one you do, which direction, but I want to align it to one side of the triangle and then the other to the other side. So I'm going to choose that for the X and this for the Y. My UCS is not visible, so I'm going to turn that on at the origin, which is where I clicked the first time to place the UCS. So now you can see a visual of how the UCS is aligned. So there is my place of origin. Then I aligned X with this line by clicking over here. Then I aligned Y with this line by clicking over here. So now I have a drawing plane that I can draw on, and I want to create a spline that curves out and around to this point. Again, we did this with the previous exercise, so I'm hoping that this is not going to interfere with that process, but we'll find out. It's getting late and I'm videoing at home, so you're going to get whatever it is. So here we go. Spline tool. We're going to start over here. First of all, you want to be viewing from the top. And you want to make sure that there aren't any snaps on and your ortho or your polar tracking is off and your ortho is off. Basically, your freehand drawing. And if you had any snaps on, you could create a really wavy line that you don't know which direction it's going. So you just want to make sure all your snaps are off. Now we're going to click on spline again. Start over here. So we need to shift right click to get an end point. Looking for end point. Click right here to start. And I'm just going to click a couple times to create a curve out. Doesn't have to be a bunch of clicks. Then I want to end it over here at the end point of this line here. Press enter. Remember, don't escape out of this. Press enter to accept your spline. I'm going to orbit just to see what this looks like. Well, we're going everywhere. Where are we? Come on, bike. Where'd you go? You just now disappeared. Let me orbit some more and see if I can find it. Something is going on with my computer. Sorry about this. Let me try to zoom extents. Escape, escape, escape. There. Whew. No idea what happened there. Panicked. So I want to go back to the top. Oh boy, here we go. I simply wanted to orbit to show you what it looks like. So it should be, and it's not. You can see it's all curvy everywhere. So I clicked on the wrong line. See that there? So I'm going to have to redo my spline. Delete that. Alright, so to start my spline, I'm going to start in this view. Spline. I want to select the right endpoint this time. I'm going to start there. Now I'm going to try to go to the top view. And I'm going to click here and maybe click one more time here. And now I'm going to shift right click endpoint. Find the endpoint of my line here. Enter. Now let's orbit and see what happened. That is correct. It is straight. However, there's a curve in there. I can fix that real quick. So now I'm going to grab this and adjust stretch points to get just a nice attractive curve. So this is just the bottom that curves out around the tire. Alright. Just making sure everything looks good before I continue. It may not seem like we've done very much, but we've actually accomplished almost probably 2/3 of what we need to do. Alright, so the next thing we want to do is create 2 circles. The first one is going to be here, and then we're going to create another circle down here. I'm going to hide my UCS for just a second. And what we need to do is reference this line. So we're going to align our UCS to this object. So I'm going to click on the UCS tool, choose object, and click on this line here. Interesting. So we're already aligned to this line. So let's turn on our UCS here. It's going to help. So we have X aligned with this line, and what we want is for Z to be facing straight out this way. So we need to rotate our UCS on Y to get our Z facing that way. So we're going to rotate on Y. I'm just going to press enter to accept the default. So now Z is facing this direction. And I need to draw my circle up here, but I wanted it to be in line with this drawing here. So now when I draw a circle, I'm going to draw, this is my center point, so I need to know the distance between, or the total distance of this line. I can see that information by selecting the line, and then up here I have a button for properties. You may or may not. I do suggest that you add it. It's really easy to do to add there. You just click on this arrow button and select properties. That will add this icon up here. When in doubt, you can always type it in. Just type in properties and it will show up in the list here. But what this does is it gives you a list. Ignore that warning. It gives you a list of properties for the object that you've selected. And what I'm mostly interested in is the length value. So this is a 12 unit line. So I know the radius of that would be 6. So now I can draw a circle with a radius of 6 up here. I'm going to draw a circle, center radius, and then I can turn my snaps back on. I'll find the end point here. I may have to just shift click to find that. And it just doesn't matter really which direction. My thing should be aligned properly. So 6 is what I'm looking for. I'm going to orbit just to make sure that everything's in line the way it should be, because the angle with which I drew that was kind of weird. And that looks correct. So basically, viewing from the left, you should be seeing the side of the circle. Now it's aligned with that line. Right now we need another circle down here. We're going to have to align our UCS to this line. Click on the UCS tool, choose Object, click on this line here. See now that has aligned itself. And we actually do want our circle drawn flat on this plane. It's going to start, the circle is going to start here and then curve out and around. So we're going to use the circle tool again. We have a line here that we can use. So we could use a 2-point circle. Click here. Is that the end of my line? Shift right click just to make sure. Thought we had a line there. We do. Okay, good. Second guessing myself. So my snaps are back on. Circle. At this point, we want the yellow line. So now we have our 3 things that we need to make this shape. We have two circles, one on this end, one on this end, and we have a path to follow. So we're going to loft again to create this shape. So we're going to go to solid. Actually, we're going to do surface loft. We're going to specify that we want to loft as a solid. So go down to the menu and select the mode, choose solid, and then we're going to click the two circles, this circle and this circle. You can see now that there's a mesh created between the two circles. We want to press enter one time. It brings up a menu that's very important because this shape is very strange. We want to use a path to guide our loft. So we're going to choose path from that menu and then click on the path that we want to follow. Voila! We have a nicely shaped metal pipe, or whatever we want to call it, from our one point on our frame out around our tire, and it's eventually going to meet up with this other metal thing over here and all the corresponding brackets. That is all we're going to be doing for today's lesson. Thanks for participating.